Everyone, I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but this will have to do. My name is Richard Stevens. I am currently the editor-in-chief of a journal called Research, Involvement and Engagement. And if you're at this event, you're all patients or caregivers who want to be or who already are involved or engaged in research. So please do have a look at the journal. It's online, it's open access, free of charge. Have a look at what we're publishing. There's loads of stuff from Canada because you're doing really interesting things. As a patient, I've had two cancers, a heart attack, all sorts of things going wrong. And as you can tell from the screen, I have now become a battered, raddled old man. And there are all sorts of other things happening and bits falling off and other things going wrong. I am a constant source of delight and data to my GP and to our National Health Service in the UK. Part of my background is that I was for a time a local newspaper journalist. And it was that started me writing various bits and bobs about my work in research. And from that, someone actually picked up on this. I had a couple of journal papers published as a co-author. And I was asked when this journal started, I was asked to edit it. I'd already been involved in trying to set it up. I didn't expect to be asked to edit it. And I am now a patient editor who actually says yes or no to whether or not papers get published. And as far as we know, I'm the only one in the world who currently has that power. One of the things I've discovered in the past 10 years is that scientific publishing is a weird and wonderful world, packed full of weird and wonderful people. In many respects, it's like Hogwarts, but with adults. It's a very strange area where people want to do what's right, and they have arcane methods for doing it. This whole idea of peer review, there's a big argument in scientific publishing. Is the peer review open? In other words, the names of the reviewers are declared to the authors, the names of the authors are declared to the reviewers, or not, because everything should be done blind, like a randomized clinical trial. Do you publish things behind paywalls because that's how some journals make their money? Do you publish things open access but charge slightly higher publication fees? At least if it's open access, we patients can get at it without having to pay a subscription or find someone who has, or ask a friendly professor to send us a copy of the paper, thereby perhaps breaching copyright law. That's another thing to argue about. Who has the copyright to publish papers? So there are all these things going on that I'd never thought about and never really considered. It is a strange and wacky world. My advice to anyone who's thinking of getting involved in this weird and wacky world is just focus on the paper you want to get published and finding the right journal to publish it. And then once you've done that a few times, by all means, get further involved. But initially, the world of scientific publishing is not for patients. I will come back to that a little bit later on. If you do want to publish just one paper, then I think we all need, as patients, we all need to decide what it is we want to publish and why. So the obvious thing is to publish a project that you're already engaged or involved with. You're working with the researchers. It is, let's face it, the researchers who are going to be writing it up. But how about you? Yes, you, being a co-author to that paper. If you've done some of the work, why aren't you co-authoring it? Now, various rules do require you also to do something with the paper, even if in the end it's only proofreading and sense checking. But why aren't we insisting that our colleagues publish their papers in journals that other patients can read? And if we do that, why are we not insisting with journal editors that every single paper published should have a lay summary, not just the lay summary of the trial on a trials register somewhere, but alongside the proper journal article? And journal editors say, oh, we can't publish that, we haven't got the space. Oh, nonsense, especially if you're publishing it online. The internet is infinite. You do have the space. publish, publish, publish. So if you want to write a paper, that's probably it. First of all, ask the researchers you're working with to become a co-author on that paper. And actually, if they're not offering it to you, why not? Start nagging them. Use journals where patients have been published. Cancer's getting quite good at it, to show them that it can work. It can be done. If you want to publish a paper by yourself, that's a really different thing. I think most of us would probably be publishing opinion pieces. So then I'd reverse the order, find the right journal and then work out how you want to write a piece for them. Sometimes it'll be 800 words, sometimes they might like 3,000 words. It's the different way of going about things. It is a big, wide world. Stick to what it is you want to do and perhaps grab the opportunities that are in front of you now rather than trying to create something new. That's me perhaps being cautious. It's taken me 10 years to try to get to grips with what I'm doing. For me as a patient editor, editing academic papers is really, really hard. One of the things we do on our journal is insist on both an abstract and a plain English summary coming in with the submission, not with the final paper, with the submission. And if I can't understand the plain English summary, I've got no chance of understanding the paper, nor will many of our readers. So back it goes to the authors. Then, of course, once we accept a paper for peer review, it goes out to peer review, obviously. One of the problems we have across the world, I think, is that there aren't enough patients doing peer review. I think it's because, A, on the one hand, nobody's asking us, but also on the other hand, we think it is more difficult than it actually is. There are various guides to doing it. Certainly Biomed Central publish a guide for reviewing for their journals, including mine. So we think it's more difficult, but we can all review papers if only, like many of us actually review patient information sheets. We can always point out what's wrong, what we don't understand, and a good reviewer will then make constructive suggestions as to how it could be put right. And I think that's if there is to be an introduction to the wider world of scientific publication, do volunteer to peer review papers. Of course, there are very, very, very few journals, if any, that will actually pay a recognition payment for patients who do peer review. And it's because academic peer reviewers are funded, in theory, through their university posts or whatever post they may hold, to be part of the academic peer review system. We patients are not funded either directly or indirectly. That in itself provides a challenge to the system, but and to us. However, that's the whole separate topic. And by the way, the Journal of Research Involvement and Engagement welcomes peer reviewers. So if you want to review for us, and our journal is actually about involvement and engagement rather than what a particular small molecule is doing or how to improve X-ray machines, then please do drop us a line at the journal. We'd be very happy to add you to our reviewers list. One question I get asked quite often is, why is it important for patients to get involved in scientific publications or publishing? And I'm not sure that that's the right question. For me as a patient, I get involved in research because I want the research to make a difference. I want it to add to our knowledge base. I want it to help improve treatments or improve the healthcare service. So for me, it's not about getting involved in publication or as such. It's about recognizing that we have a system whereby published peer review papers are adding to an evidence base. It's where the results of the clinical trials are. It's where people express opinions about what those results may mean, or what a whole collection of trials may mean, and whether the evidence is strong enough to actually change something. It's where the academic world and indeed industry showcase what they've done for other people to make the change. That's why we should get involved, because that evidence comes from us. And the changes we would like to see are about us or people like us. So it's really not getting involved in publication. To me, it's an extension of why we're involved in research in the first place. It's how research takes that first step towards making a difference. It's the evidence that goes to regulators. It's the collection of viewpoints that will make a Royal College or a national organization change its guidelines. And that's what we want to happen. That's why we got involved in the first place. And at the moment, I think there is a gap between those two things, why we're getting involved and actually making the change we want to see. And the publishing world, whether we like it or not, and many of us don't, that's the gap. And there should be more of us helping to bridge that gap. One last thing about what I've just been saying, which is if I have come across as being too negative and making up too many challenges, that's not intentional. I've been reflecting on my 10 years as a journal editor, but before that, I spent 15 years getting involved in other ways in various forms of research. It is a learning curve. I'm not a scientist by training. I'm a historian. My degree taught me to come up with two facts and invent something to link them. Healthcare research is a bit more disciplined than that. So if I've come across as too negative, I don't intend to be. It's just that it can be a long haul, and I really do believe that the best way to approach it is one step at a time. And if there are open doors initially, like working with a team that's going to publish anyway, or offering to be a reviewer, those are the first steps to take. Don't jump in until you can swim.